In the world right now, I know for a lot of us, things can feel crazy. Things can feel like there's just no end to the stressful nature of things. That we're always going to be caught up in hustle and bustle and just never be able to find peace. Well, I'm here to say that that is simply just not true. I'm going to share today some of the tips of things that I personally don't do so that I can live a little bit more of a simple life. I want to preface this, of course, with saying that I am far from perfect, and even though I have these suggestions and I do try to live by them, that doesn't mean I always succeed. There's definitely times where I don't fully, be able to stick to these tips because a lot of them are mental juggling a little bit. But I think it can be helpful to just think about it and really practice, because a lot of things you do have to practice. I think people think of practicing is just more of a physical thing. You practice playing an instrument or practice a sport, but you have to practice mindset as well. So I think putting this out there could definitely be helpful. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Catherine, and here I just share my journey to a slower, more simple and natural life, as well as some of my homesteading and homemaking shenanigans that I get up to. So if you're interested in any of those things as well, please check out my channel, consider subscribing, and maybe see if any other videos interest you. Okay, for the very first one, it is I do not shop for fun. And that means exactly what it says. I do not go shopping for enjoyment. It's just not something that I do. It is very common in our day and age, and especially where I am in America, for people to just, as an outing, maybe with friends or even by themselves, to go shopping, and it's used as a form of entertainment. And to me, it really just doesn't make sense. If I don't have anything that I need, then I don't really see the reason to go and put myself in the situation to, one, spend money that could be used better elsewhere, that I could save, that I could put towards, something that would ease stress later on, as well as a lot of the time we just add clutter to our lives. And truly, when we have a bunch of things around us, it can feel very overwhelming, especially if it doesn't serve us in any way. Now, I am not a full minimalist by any means. I think there are things that can just serve the purpose of bringing joy by seeing them. I have knickknacks and things like that, but I think being in a habit of spending money and getting things to have joy is just a harmful mindset to be in. Of course, shopping addiction is a real thing, and I don't think everybody that goes to shop for fun has shopping addiction, but it's better to just stay away from that more than play into it, I feel. And that even includes thrift shopping too, because I know people do put that in separate categories, which they should. On an environmental level, of course, it is very different, but on, your own level, you're still getting things you don't need, spending money you don't need to spend. But that also doesn't mean that if I just want decorations, I wouldn't go and try to find some thrifted decorations. It's just that if I don't have a thought to begin with of something that I'd want, I just don't go out and do something like that. It's just not necessary for all the reasons that I've already talked about. I don't allow myself to have unlimited social media. And this means a couple things. One, I don't have every single social media platform there is out there, which, as somebody who is trying to get into content creation, there is a lot of pressure to be on multiple platforms because you want to, find your audience in more places. But the one app that I tried to be on at one point, it's been years ago now, was TikTok. And I just found that it was sucking me in more than actually being productive. And I just don't like that short form kind of content. It's, to me, so harmful to our brain to consume, really. You can make your own opinion on that, of course, but for me, it was just a big no. I've never been on Twitter, or X as it's now known as. I don't even really know what else is out there, but I'm just not on all these things. I don't need to put my time into all of them. It doesn't make sense. And also, the ones that I do have, I very highly limit my time. I do have a personal Facebook page, and this is mostly just to have Facebook Marketplace in case I wanted to find anything locally specific, or to share some things with people that I've known throughout my life. You know, at my old teaching job, for example, I have friends on there just from different stages of life to keep up with them. But I do not have Facebook on my phone because Facebook now too, you can start scrolling and then has the Facebook reel type things. It's so easy for people to get sucked into. It's crazy. So no Facebook on my phone. I only will check it on the computer, and that helps to keep me, you know, from any doom scrolling, and just to check to see, you know, if somebody in my life, any events have happened or anything like that. And Instagram, I've actually just recently come back to. I took a long break from my Instagram, but I have to be very careful on that too. Of course, the Instagram Reels are just like TikToks. And I personally kind of don't want to have Instagram at all, but there's still just that creative part of me that really enjoys taking pretty pictures. That's kind of what Instagram used to be back when it first came out, is just photos. And so that does bring me joy, but on my phone I actually have an app. So there's auto lock, I think, built into iPhones, but I have a separate app that, one, it asks me, why are you checking? So it really helps me consider to not just open it out of any kind of habit, but really because I want to check something or just do a quick post. And it also only allows me to unlock it however many times I set for the day and for however much time I set. So that's part of in the app. I forget what it's called on the top of my head, but I will put it here, and I'll also put it in the description. But that really helps me at my current stage in life to keep that balance. Even though I'm choosing to have that social media, it helps me to not constantly be on it, or be on it more than I would like to be. Another tip with something like Instagram, if you want to move away from it, I already do this, but I scrapbook. So instead of feeling the need to post my pictures online all the time, at the end of every month into the beginning of the new month, I do a scrapbook page of that month, and so I use pictures I've taken. And that really helps me to have a place for those pictures that's, one, more beautiful, helps me be even more creative because I'm making this like pretty spread. And also, once again, it helps me to stay off of the Instagram app, which is great. So if you struggle with spending too much time on social media or being too much on the social medias, really consider why you're on there. If you can maybe switch that habit to something else, or also consider getting some of these apps like I've mentioned that really lock you out of those so that you just won't overindulge. Number 3 is I do not keep up with trends. So of course I, for the most part, I'd say know what's kind of going on with trends. Sometimes I don't hear about things for a very long time. So I guess in that case, I don't actually really know what's going on. But it would be exhausting to try to keep up with those trends, honestly. I know that there is a lot of lingo on the internet for different things with different trends that go on. I know I also sound like I'm 80 years old. But let's just say, for an example, we're talking about, you know, buying things before. If with every new trend of how to keep your house, you're somebody that really falls into those trends, then you'd feel obligated to buy new decor and change things up. And one, that adds to, like we've said before, the clutter in your home, that adds to wastefulness of buying things you don't need, probably made from companies that are not great to support. And then what do you do the next time that a trend comes up? You change it all again. You have to deal with the things, the items, the stress of trying to keep up. Same with fashion choices. I know that there's different kind of trends going around. I think one is called like old money, like the style of being very put together. I think like kind of showing yourself to be somebody who comes from wealth, I think is what that is. But then the next trend comes along and it's cottagecore or it's Y2K, you know. And there's nothing wrong, I think, with having clothes that, you know, more than you need. I think it is fun to play with your style for sure. But if you're just doing it based off of trends that you're seeing on the internet, it's going to get so exhausting. So I would really encourage you to just try to find your interests and what you like to see creatively, artistically, in homes and in design and on your clothes. Try to figure that out for yourself, opposed to going too far on the internet with it, because of course we're going to get influenced by what we're perceiving all the time. It's just a fact. And I'm definitely somebody who likes to use apps like Pinterest too for inspiration for those kinds of things. But I think, especially with some of the short form media or even stuff like YouTube, if we're following all kinds of people with, keeping up with those things and promoting different things, and of course we're going to fall into that as well. And I personally think it's a lot less stressful to just keep with what you like and just, change things up when you feel like it, not with what's in right now. Number 4, I do not compare my journey to others. And this sounds simple, right? And probably said by tons and tons of people in many, many ways, because comparison is awful. In the age we live in now, it ties in very strongly to other things I've said already, but going on and just seeing what other people are doing can influence us so much. And where it can get really hard is if we're seeing people living out something that we have as a dream. And that's all fine and good until we start comparing ourselves to them. And we never want to do that. We never want to find ourselves feeling jealousy over somebody else's life. One, we don't know the full extent of their life. We don't know what's behind the scenes. So there's no reason to compare yourself to something you don't even know really to the full extent. And 2, what good is that going to do? It's just going to make you feel upset. You feel like you won't be able to achieve the things you want to achieve, or feel like you're behind in some way, but it's simply just not true. Keep your focus on what you're passionate about and just keep striving to do a little bit more towards it every day, to do what you can. Everybody's journey in life is unique, and of course we're all going to have regrets or things we wish we could have done better, but truly it's not about what we've done, it's about what we do now. So instead of wasting your time comparing what you think your life is to what you think somebody else's life is, just focus on what you know to be true, what you know your situation is, and focus on how you can improve that for the goals that you have. Number 5, stressing over having the perfect routine. And this one is definitely a harder one for me to, stick to for sure, because I'm somebody who really is very motivated and wants to do a lot and get a lot done and really progress all the time. But where that hurts me severely is if there's a day that's just a little bit off with my very, planned out routine, it can make me feel, like I didn't do a good job that day, or like I really messed up, or it's going to be so hard to get back to it that I ruined some like super long lasting goodness in my life just through one day of doing something a little different. But it's just not true. And I'm going to tell you the truth. No routine is going to last forever. And that's definitely hard to accept a little bit as well. But that is just simply the truth. Life has seasons, and every season is going to have different challenges, different positives, just different things going on. And so truly you're not going to stick to an exact perfect routine every single day for the rest of your life. But that's not the bad thing. What's bad is if you let not sticking to that routine get to you and make you feel sad or depressed or feel like you should just give up. But that's just not true. Of course you shouldn't. You just should, allow yourself to adjust and adapt and continue to strive for the goal you had that routine in place for in the first place, but you might just need to change something up a little bit. For example, I used to get up at 5 a.m. every single day for months and months. I was in that routine. But in my life, I started having classes that would go into like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm not somebody who falls asleep quickly. Once I'm asleep, I need like my full 8 hours. So not being able to go to bed as early as I was before has meant that my waking up has not been at 5 a.m. every single day anymore. I'm still trying to adjust and figure out where the best place for that to be is. But instead of getting down on myself and saying, how awful of me for messing up this really great, consistent routine I had, I understand that I'm just in a different season of life right now. And my class is the most important thing over the sleep and the time I wake up. So it's just about adjusting. Interrupting this video for a quick intermission. So I have a website and I've had it for a while, but if you want to see it, you can click right here on my channel and it'll take you to the website. But what's new is I now have a shop connected. And in that shop, I have both t-shirts and bags, eco-friendly, from a print-on-demand company, and the designs are completely drawn by me. So if you're interested, please check it out and give it a buy. If you have any questions, you can message me on my Instagram, which you can see right here. Thank you so much. Number 6, I do not put myself in the position to need to have cheap, quick, and easy fixes. So this is kind of a long one, and it can mean a few different things, but I think it's just all important. I try to make sure I, prepare myself for whatever situation I am going into for the day. So if I know that I'm going to be out and on some kind of road trip, for example, I prepare ahead of time for good food that I can pack and put in the car so that I don't feel the need to have to get something just to have any calories in me that is something I really, one, would never want to eat or would make me not feel good because my body is not used to it. There's so many examples that this could kind of apply to, and I don't even have them all on the top of my head, but it basically is just saying that I'm preparing myself beforehand for doing something so that I don't have to do, the thing I wouldn't want to do or wouldn't choose to do when I'm put in that situation. It's really about just kind of thinking ahead a little bit and keeping yourself prepared. This could also even apply to maybe you're somebody that works a typical 9 to 5 and you would meal prep ahead of the time for the week because that's what works best for your schedule, opposed to not really thinking about it and then finding yourself having to go to lunch at a fast food joint or not having lunch even, which would be awful. So it's really just about putting your mind in a place to prepare, think ahead, and basically do things to make your later self happy, if that makes sense. Number 7, I do not think about everything as a way to either get money or to get views or any other kind of popularity. This is definitely something that pertains to me as somebody who is trying to be a content creator of sorts, and also somebody who really is business minded in a lot of ways. Ever since I was little, I wanted to be more of somebody that worked for myself and did my own thing. I remember I was in like 1st grade, 3rd grade, and I would sell my art to the other kids at school. One of the first things I did was I would draw Pokemon for people for $1. And my mom, for a long time before our house burned down, had my first dollar I ever made for a business, from a business, in a little frame, which was so cute. But so I've always been kind of business minded in that way. But it's really important to check myself and realize that I don't need to make everything I do be a way to try to profit in some way or try to get views in some way. Some people kind of have both of those issues going on or lean towards one over the other. There's some people that really just have that desire to be popular, to be seen by many. Others that really just have a desire to, make that money. And while it's not a bad thing to, want to make money or be a business owner or anything like that, I think it's important to make sure that we're not trying to turn everything into that. For example, if I try to turn everything into a business, it would be I could never just sew or crochet or knit for fun. I would try to be thinking about a way to make that a business, make that profitable. Or if it was coming to, say, my social media, for example, I would maybe on my Instagram, instead of just posting beautiful pictures from my garden, which I love, if I was trying to think really view oriented, it might be just whatever I thought would get the most views, or trying to get views even if it wasn't really spreading the kind of message I actually want to spread, just any message for the sake of views. There are unfortunately people that I really hope they can live happy lives, but they make kind of content or do things just for the sake of almost baiting people into watching them out of anger. And I find that unfortunate and just really stressful to maintain. I'm not sure why you would go down that road. Of course, it pays off financially, I'm sure, but it's just so much better to just keep things separate, have things that you do for your own joy, have the things that you do try to, make into a business if that's something you want to do. Or if you're not really business mindseted at all and you do just want personal stuff, but maybe you get caught up in numbers, really remember what that means. Does it really mean anything if it's not people that care about you and want what's best for you? I don't think so, really. Number 8, I do not allow myself to get FOMO. And this is actually a term I just learned recently, which also makes me feel very old. I think it's been a thing for a while. But FOMO, for those who don't know, is fear of missing out. And maybe it sounds dumb saying I don't get FOMO or don't let yourself get FOMO, because it's like you can't help it if you get that, right? And to an extent, yes, I agree. But I think it's really important to analyze where a lot of this FOMO is coming from. And I think it's coming from the social media mostly. There's so many videos and, pictures of people traveling to different places, for example, or doing these different fun, exciting things. And I think people can get this FOMO just from absorbing all this content. They're getting anxiety about, the fact that they're not doing these things or feel like they might not be able to get the chance to. But behind every video and picture that is picture perfect is a lot more to that story, I will say. And I just want to be somebody who puts out there, I think a lot of FOMO is coming from some deceit, and maybe not intentional deceit, but some deceit nevertheless. If you look, a lot of these places that people are getting beautiful cinematography of, it's not what it looks like, really. It's tourist attractions, and so there's dumps nearby, there's lots of tourists, there's trash, there's just a lot going on. And I think you should really know even what it is that you want to do before you should even be getting stressed about not doing it. Of course, even if you do have, say, a place you've always wanted to go and you really know what you want to do and why, of course, you still, even in that case, shouldn't be feeling that stress. Just work towards it and you will be able to do those things. But I think a lot of it comes from just the quick getting of content and then feeling like, oh, there's so many fun things I want to see and do, but I don't have the time or the money. And you're stressing yourself out over things you don't really even know about yet. Also, I think it's funny too. I'm definitely somebody that likes the idea of bucket lists, for example. But I think a lot of people put stuff on bucket lists just for the sake of it, just because it's like a bucket list thing to do. Like, for example, I would never jump out of a plane. Never. You could never pay me money to jump out of a plane. And that's just me. There's nothing wrong with wanting to. But so I shouldn't be putting on a bucket list that I'm gonna skydive, because that would not bring me joy. That would not be something I need to do. Like, I have no reason to do that because I wouldn't want to, even if it's a exciting bucket list thing. And there's many kinds of things like that. I think this pertains even more so to younger people, like maybe high schoolers and stuff, but just that feeling of wanting to go and do it all and see it all. But I think truthfully, none of us really want to do it all for the most part, or see it all for the most part. And I think for me, at least, just having that reality check in my brain of, oh yeah, that's a really beautiful video and maybe it is something I'd want to see someday, but there's so much more to that story. There's the plane tickets to get over there. There's the what laws are there and wherever they are. The actual tourist situation of that place. It's much more comforting to know what you have around you for beauty and what you have around you to experience, and really taking full advantage of that first before, getting too caught up in the places and things you have yet to see or do. Number 9, I do not keep harmful relationships. And this is kind of funny coming from me because I've truly never been somebody that has had like a huge group of friends or anything like that. So it might just sound kind of like an excuse for being a loner, which is fine. But truly, friendships or relationships in general, It is not about the numbers, it is about the quality. And any relationship, it doesn't even have to be a full-on, abusive kind of relationship or just, mean relationship. If it's just not serving you to, interact with this person, that doesn't mean you have to cut them off. That doesn't mean you have to make it a dramatic thing, but it's okay to just keep that distance. Really, before we can help anybody else with things, we need to help ourselves and make sure we're doing all good. So any relationships that just feel like they're hindering your progress or your growth, or even just you've changed since you first started being around this person and it just no longer makes sense, you're no longer able to support each other in a good way or anything like that, that is enough of a reason to just take some distance from this person. It is not a bad thing to only have a couple people you're close to. It is not a bad thing to, be solitary a lot of the time. Those things are much better than just having a bunch of people that, like I said, don't even have to be super, super harmful, but just maybe the way they talk about things is more negative, or their mindset around certain things just kind of bums you out a little bit. Take that separation. It'll be okay to do so. And number 10, very similar to the last one, but I think it is important even though it is kind of cliche. And another one of those ones that's like easier said than done, of course. But I do not keep negative mindsets. Of course, there's times where some depression comes in and things just don't feel that happy. But it is really important. This is where I was talking about in the beginning of practice. You just want to practice looking at things in a more positive light. If you're somebody that's in the habit of saying, oh, this day is going to suck because I know this and this is going to happen, or, oh man, that person on the news is awful because of what they say, or even, oh man, I'm so sad because it's a rainy day today and I wanted it to be a sunny day because of the plans that I had. I'm not saying that having those initial feelings is not valid, but I am saying that it would be much more productive for you to try to reframe those things into a positive mindset. Thinking about the positives in your day opposed to the negatives really does have that shift occur where maybe the same things are happening, but it doesn't feel as bad because you're not focusing on it. You're focusing on the good things. And the more you focus on the good things, the more you will cultivate more goodness. This saying has been said many times, I'm sure, but the seeds that you water is what grow. So if you are watering those negative thoughts, you're just going to keep growing the negative plant in your brain. But if you really take time to nurture the positives in your life, to nurture those mindsets, then that's just going to keep expanding on itself. Of course, it's hard. Of course, you're going to have bad days, and that's not a time to beat yourself up over it. But always try to come back to that positivity. And remember that things truly are what you make them to be. I personally like to also keep like a gratitude journal. Every day, write down just a couple things I'm thankful for that happened that day. And that really helps me to think about the day as a whole. Sometimes it goes by so fast and it was so busy and we did have a lot of stressful moments, but maybe you were at work and somebody complimented your outfit and that made you smile, or somebody allowed you to, merge into the traffic, which was really nice. If we go back and think about those little positive things, it really does add up and add to our spirits and make us more happy. So I definitely recommend practicing that. So that was 10 things on what I do not do to live a little bit more of a simple life. If you like this kind of content and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing to join this community of like-minded folk. I do put out a new video every Monday, so I'd love to see you in the next one. But that is going to do it for this week's video, and I do hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye!